definitely want to be formed.
They said we're ready.
We're
They
ready?
didn't-
Okay.
They didn't ask me if I was ready. Anyhow, I'm having a great time. My wife and I came to Calgary by way of that railroad that runs all the way across from Vancouver to Banff. Had a great time, saw some fantastic scenery, but we did chew them out because we never saw any bears. We never saw any elk. Saw lots of eagles. Never saw, we did see an eagle with a salmon in its claws.
Oh.
That was, but, you know, it was really hard seeing all that scenery. But there are lots of things we discovered about Canada. They talk a different English here. That's right. Because, you know, I'm from San Francisco. We have lots of massage parlors, but they're not spelled like this place next door. Did you notice how they spelled the name of that place? Massage, M-A-S-A-J, massage.
How'd you guys spell it? How'd you guys spell it?
M-A-S-S-H-E-E. In the States. Anyhow, on this trip across Canada, we met a couple who had observed another couple arguing about how to pronounce the name of some town. Weird names here, because they come from original peoples. Down there we call them Native Americans, but up here they're original peoples. Original nations. Original nations. Anyhow, this couple argued and argued and argued. Finally, they came to a place where they decided, we can't pronounce the name of this town, so let's just go in. They found a fast food restaurant and they ran inside and they walked up to the young lady at the counter and said, look, we're really having a problem here. We don't know the name of this place, how to say the name of this place. Would you settle the argument for us, and would you pronounce the name of this place really slowly? The young lady leaned over and said, Burger King. So, with that, we're gonna do public speaking. You can do it. That's what this is all about. In public speaking, there are three really important points: the beginning, the middle, and the end. That's all there is to public speech. It doesn't go on forever. It's not like elementary school or kindergarten. No, I didn't spend more than 1 year in kindergarten. But public speaking is beginning, middle, and the ending. That's all there is to it. So we learn how to do it. But to be effective in public speaking, you need to make the most of these three things. To do that, we're going to take a look at some P's. What? Some P's? No. Not those kind of P's. These kind of P's. The letter P. We're going to look at a bunch of P's to help you become a better speaker. I don't intend to teach you how to spell, but I do want to help you become a better speaker. Because when you apply these 5 P's to your public speaking career, maybe it's not a career, but it's fun. But to public speaking, they'll add to your ability to connect with the audience, to get your message out there, to get everything done. During this session, you're going to get some information to help you develop skills that will pay off, whether in training, sales, or leadership. Those are skills that are important. The first one is patience. In case you don't know it, the definition of patience is the capacity to accept or tolerate delay without getting angry or upset. Oh, that's a hard part of life. Without getting angry or upset, to accept delay? What do you mean the bus isn't here? What do you mean the plane's not here yet from New York? I paid for this ticket. See, we get upset. Patience is something we have to work on. And as you do your public speaking, you are patient with what you know. Don't attempt to talk to me about quantum physics unless you're a quantum physicist, because you're gonna go right on your face. Patience is like sand in the hourglass. The grain of sand that's up in the top will eventually work its way down to the bottom when its time comes. You don't see grains of sand rushing to get to the bottom of the hourglass. Your time will come in public speaking. Number one, talk about what you know. Whether it's DOS in Arca OS, or whether it's a mainframe computer and how to load a mag tape, or if you still remember punch cards, load a stack of punch cards in. I actually did that one summer. Actually, I came back and did it a second summer. I used to work at the welfare department in San Francisco, and my job was to see that the foster homes got paid. A stack of punch cards had to be gone through every month to make sure all the names and addresses were correct. I delivered them to the IT department because I wasn't worthy to touch the data processing equipment. You know, those were special people, and those cards went, and some checks came out, and I looked at the checks, stuffed them in envelopes. But talk about what you know. And when you have the opportunity to speak somewhere, never turn down the opportunity. Why? Because you'll never get any better if you don't do anything. We're going to talk about that a little later. But that poor grain of sand has patience. That little grain of sand may have ended up inside this oyster shell. The oyster, the mantle, the meat part of the oyster. By the way, remember when we used to have mother of pearl buttons? Guess what? The mother of pearl is pearl. No, it's not. A pearl is that thing. No, it's the same substance. It's called nacre. The mantle produces nacre to cover that grain of sand because it's an irritant. It's like you when you have a sliver in your finger. It's an irritant. So you'll do anything to get rid of that sliver. The oyster does that with that grain of sand, and it keeps covering it with nacre over and over again. And if you're patient enough, you have a pearl of great price. Well, if there's patience, there's also persistence. Persistence has been defined as the quality that allows someone to continue doing something. Someone to continue doing something? Oh my gosh. Or trying to do something even though it's difficult or other people oppose it. You say, Joe, I'm not going to be a public speaker. It's too hard. If you persist and talk about what you know, you can get it done. Again, if somebody invited you to come up here and talk about quantum physics or volcanology, I'm not talking about the Vulcans from Star Wars, but volcanology, volcanoes, if you don't know anything about it, you can't do it. But talk about what you know. Martin stood up here and talked about what he knows. We all spend time talking about what we know. You can do that. So, here you go. Persistence is like this rock. A king, it's not a rock, it's a little big for a rock, it's a stone, okay? A king had a stone placed in the middle of a road. And as the rich merchants in his kingdom traveled by, they cursed at the king because the king wasn't taking care of the road. The members of his court or cabinet came by and they yelled about, who's the dummy that left this rock in the middle of the road? Finally, a peasant came by with a load of vegetables on his shoulder. He bent over and set the vegetables down on the ground and said, this doesn't belong here. And he pushed on it and he put his back up into it. Nothing seemed to work. But then he looked, beside the road was a branch from a tree. He broke it off. He took another rock and that branch and he levered the stone off the road. And he said, now the road is clear. Anybody can get through. He stooped and he picked up his vegetables and he put them on his shoulder and he looked. And where the rock had been laying, there was a bag. He walked over and he picked up the bag. And inside were gold coins and the message from the king that thanked the person who cleared the road. Be persistent because you can get there. You see, that peasant learned what many of us never understand. Every obstacle presents an opportunity to improve our condition. Did you hear that? Every obstacle. I don't care what it is. A car in the way, a locked door, a stone or a rock in the road presents an opportunity to improve our condition. It's what we do about it, what we're persistent about doing. If we don't persist, nothing happens. If you're going to be persistent, you need to do some things. Study great speeches, whether they're by Abraham Lincoln or JFK or Bernie Sanders or Newt Gingrich. I don't care. Just study great speeches. They're on YouTube now. It used to be when I was growing up, well, you guys are about as old as I am, so. When I was growing up, we had to go to the theater and watch the newsreels. Or maybe, just maybe, we could get one of those 78 RPM records and put it on the phonograph and listen to great speeches. Now you can go on YouTube and you can see speeches by almost anybody. There's films from the Library of Congress that are, you can look, Library of Congress, you can see great speeches. But study those speeches and see what made the speech giver different. What was different? You can persist in being a public speaker by studying public speakers. Your favorite speaker, who are they? You can go to public speaking classes. You can join Toastmasters. They don't beat you up. They may expect you to say something every week. But remember, saying something doesn't mean talking for 2 hours. How many of you ever taught classes? I mean, really taught, a teacher kind of class. We know that we face the enemy, I'm sorry, our students, sometimes 7 to 8 hours a day, depending on what you taught. I taught at the phone company for 5 years, except for doing substitute teaching as a defensive driver instructor or a toll fundamentals instructor. It was the same class every 2 weeks. 8-day class. I had 2 days to clean up the classroom, get ready for the next class. 8 hours a day, I had students in front of me. You have to persist in paying attention to them and what you say, how you say it. Just remember, there are no failures. There are no failures in public speaking, only different results. Some people leave early because you're bored. Others go to sleep. The hardest time you had today was nap time, right after lunch. That is the hardest time to speak to anybody. You kept us awake. Even kept me awake. I'm surprised. Now I'm gonna go take a nap. Bye. But you have to be persistent. There are no failures, only different results. Then there are the people. Wait a minute. What's people got to do with public speaking? Well, that's because the people are out there and you're here behind the microphone and you're talking to them. You're here. You should speak to them in ways they understand, not some gibberish that's a foreign language to them. Please don't speak some strange language to me. What did you say? I didn't understand. In your speaking, you should speak to move people to do something differently. If you can't speak to get people to do something differently or better, don't waste their time. Close the door, leave. Look at your subject, whatever the subject is from your audience's viewpoint. I remember when I used to be scared to death to stand up and talk. Yeah, that was a long time ago. When I was a teenager, oh, that was before some of you were born even. You're gonna say, nah, yeah, I was born a long time ago. Anyhow, fear of standing up here and doing this. Look at your speech from the audience's perspective. What can you convey to them that will help them? And as you talk into that microphone, be a giver, not a taker. Give them something that will help them. It's them. They're the most important people in the room, not you. If you're the most important person in the room, they're gonna turn you off. And I don't mean turn their hearing aids off. I mean, they're just gonna turn you off in their mind. That's what our wives say we do, gentlemen. And mine's sitting in the back of the room. So she knows I do that. What? And she said, well, I said it 3 times and you didn't hear me. Well, as a speaker, you should help others rather than sell. One of my favorite salesmen used to work with me. I followed him around through 3 companies. The last company he worked at, and we worked together, he was the top salesman nationwide, and he never closed a sales call. Did you hear that? He never closed a sales call. That's like you going into a car dealership and the car guy never saying, now, what would it take for me to get you out of here in this car tonight? He never did that. He'd always get done saying, well, there you go, that's the product we've got, and if you got some questions, give me a call. You know, here's my number, give me a call. Oh, and you too. Give me a call if you have any questions, and we'd leave. I'd go to sales meetings with him, and his vice president of sales would always get mad because he would never nail down, when can we deliver this product and take your money? But that was what they would do. They'd get mad at him. But he was the top salesman nationwide. What he built was a relationship with the people. He came to a sales meeting to give information, to give encouragement, to tell you how we can help. And if you have any questions, give us a call. Sometimes we would drive 4 hours for a 1-hour meeting and then drive back to the office. And that included me picking up a phone system that was the size of 3 of those boxes on the floor, and they weren't light, and some phones. And we do our demos. Get to know your audience. If you don't know your audience, who they are, what they do, what their interests are, you can't connect with them. Isn't it an amazing thing? It works wonders. You've probably been to some conferences where the speaker went on and on and on and on, and you wish they, wait, where's the end of this piece? Anyhow, the clue is always end early, say thanks to the audience, the people, and stay late. Wait, Joe, you said end early. Yes, end your speech early, say thanks, and stay late and talk to them. Answer their questions. They may not have wanted to raise their hand and demonstrate how dumb they were, but we know there are no dumb questions except the ones that don't get asked. So stay late so you can answer their questions. Then you need to be prepared. Preparation is more important than anything other than how much you care about your subject. Your object in preparing is so you can inform your audience. Now, preparation starts funny. You have a dream. Let's imagine it as it's a dream of a house. You have this dream of what you want to speak about, whether it's Arca OS or Windows 3.1 running on a 486 computer in the back room of some store, or you secreted in your room to play games on. Or maybe it was your old Pong game, whatever it was. You have a dream for what you want to do. Dream about your subject. Think about your subject, because the dream becomes the basis for your starting point to get where you want to be. It's the basis, your dream. From that dream, you develop plans. Your plans give you purpose. What are you going to talk about? How are you going to talk about it? Your purpose is to inspire your audience. If you don't want to do that, leave. Don't even accept the speaking engagement. Ask yourself, who is my audience, and what effect do I want my talk to have on you? Identify your desired outcomes. Write down some real goals. Write them down. Don't dream them. Write them down. What do I want my students, my audience, to do or do better? That's your goal. Question. Then how are you going to do that? That's the purpose you're working for. You want to identify a desired outcome for speaking. Write it out. Don't just, oh, I want them to feel good. I'm sorry. They're not doing anything by feeling good. You want them to do better. Then you need to give your speech some structure. Structure? Yes. Structure should be 3 sections. We already said this. I'm saying it again. Beginning, middle, and end. Or as some people say, a grabber to grab the audience. 3 to 5 points in the middle. 3 to 5. Don't get long. Don't go 26 points. Don't play 20 questions. And an ending. It's imperative that you get organized, because if you don't get organized, you can't do this. You can't build your speech. Organize your material in an effective manner so you can do this. You know, if you watch carpenters build a house, they don't deliver the roof structure first. I'm sorry. And on that lot, they pour the foundation first. They don't come in and do that last, unless you're in earthquake country and your house slipped off the foundation. But the foundation is the base. If you want to make an impact on people, you have to be ready to make an impact, and organization is going to help you do that. Then you need to put some skin on it. If you were playing football, we'd say that's putting your body on the front line with a 300-pound, 6'5" defender facing you. and you're supposed to carry the ball, nah, I'm going that way. I don't care. I don't care what you expect me to do. I'm not letting some guy that big tackle me. Anyhow, you gotta put some skin in the game. So, your structure, your sheath, you're putting the skin on it, is to outline your speech, put down all the key points, all the things you want to talk about as points. Don't write your speech, just put down points. Then write your speech. But before you start writing the body of the speech, write your opening statement, your grabber. Notice I said write it, not outline it. Write it. Then write your closing statement that drives your point home. It's important you do that. Write it out so you know what you're going to say. Now, all those points in the middle, for this speech, I actually had, let's see, 40 lines per page, 3.5 pages, well, over 120 points. They aren't all here, by the way. But I took the 120 points and I said, where do they all fit? Because then after I had 120 things, I had to take my 5 P's and I had to split everything to where it goes, and I had to, no, I don't want to say that. No, I don't want to say, I already said that. Work it out so you put some skin, some body. And always keep linking to the opening. Notice the sheathing is tied to the structure. The structure is tied to the foundation, and this is all based on how it was planned. Use some humor, tell some stories, have fun. Don't bore your audience to death by saying, and then in chapter 37, line 4, paragraph 26, you notice that Mr. Kennedy said, and who cares? What do I want you to do? That's what the message is about. Then drive your final point home. Yep, I said drive your final point home. Plan your closing remarks word for word. Where do you get them from? A poem? Where do you get them from? A newspaper story? I don't care where you get them from. Or out of your own heart, what you feel about a product or whatever it is you're talking about. And you'll end up with this, a complete product. And you'll add some color to it, the gray and the white. But you add color to your speech with your visuals. Your visuals should not be what you start with. Don't start with visuals unless it's a picture of you falling off of some tall building. Me off the gondola in Banff would have been a good picture, but we don't have that. But that's not the basis of what you start with. The basis is you dream it, you plan it, you prepare, you get this structure and you cover it all, you put some skin on it. Your visuals go there after you finish writing the speech. Keep them simple. 2 years ago, you remember I talked about presentations with impact. Plan your visuals. Don't get glitzy with all stuff going round and round and round and up and down. You're not producing the next great Hollywood blockbuster. You're speaking to your audience to inspire them, not to scare them to death. So preparation is what you're gonna do. Preparing a speech is kind of like teaching. It doesn't happen overnight. You spend time. So in your preparation, you should also do something in your speech to prepare for next time. Look at your audience, listen to your audience, talk to your audience, plan to talk to your audience. That's preparation. Because you want to improve your next speech. And then, let me tell you about this. This is a story that really has to do with practice. I'm substitute technician for a hospital in Santa Rosa, California. That's where the wildfires were last fall. And I happened to be the technician during that time period, because the regular guy was off for 9 to 11 weeks. Turned out I ended up like 18 weeks working there, hour and a half to get there every day, an hour and a half to get home. But anyhow, because I have to get there early, I get up really early in the morning, and I don't want to wake up my wife, so in the dark, I grab all of my clothes, go in and get all dressed, and then I come back and grab my shoes, and I've actually learned how to lace shoes in the dark, even though that one's got a double knot and that one's got a single knot. I can still do that in the dark. The weird thing is, I got to work. The hospital is about a quarter mile away from the office, and the other end of the hospital is a quarter mile away from that door. So after 2 or 3 trips on this particular day, my ankles hurt, my knees hurt, my hip hurt. I was dying. And I walked back into the cubicle, and I sat down, and I put my feet out and said, boy, do I look stupid. The problem is, this shoe is 5 millimeters from the floor to the bottom of the heel inside, and this one is 8 millimeters. 3 millimeters difference is all it took to put my whole body out of kilter. Now, I didn't continue to work. I found a manufacturer a shoe store that sells this brand of shoes, and I walked in the door, and of course the guy asked me, may I help you? And I said, and I'm sure the thought went through his head, what kind of dumb nut is this? Anyhow, I bought a new pair of shoes that matched neither one of these. I bought a whole pair of shoes. What happens when you don't prepare, you get out of kilter. And everything is wrong. And if you don't prepare for a speech, you're like this. You know, it should have blown over. But having the mismatched shoes put my body out of kilter. Not preparing properly for this speech would put the speech out of balance. Not only will you notice it, but your audience will. So that's preparation. You have some other things to do, and that's practice. Yes, I said practice. You don't become a speaker and get any better if you never practice. Remember, you were going to be patient, you were going to be persistent, you were going to be concerned about the people you were going to prepare. Now you're going to practice. I don't know if you know what this is, but that's a killing machine out there with the green. That's a killing machine. If you've ever been to batting cages, in there is the nastiest machine in the world. Even worse than that 300-pound defender. Because what happens is you go into this cage where it's only you with this funky little helmet on, and you put money in that red box. And that machine out there throws balls at you. It doesn't say, you ready? Okay, honey, you ready? Come on, kiddo, watch this one, it's coming now, swing. No, that machine throws balls at you faster than you thought anybody could throw a ball. That's practice. And batters go to the batting cages to practice, to get the hang of connecting the bat with the ball. We have to practice. And you can do that by memorizing the concepts in your talk, not the content. Don't memorize the words. And if you plan to read, some people do that, learn to read without sounding like you're reading. I can't give you an example. I actually had an example in the speech, and what I discovered is after doing it 2 times, I can't read like I'm reading. I read like I'm speaking. But practice reading. Find your grandkids. Go read stories to them. You don't say, and the dog went to the corner, and the dog laid in its bed. You say, you make it fun for your kid. Boxer, the dog, went out to the backyard, and Boxer looked at Molly, and Boxer sniffed Molly. Read like you're talking. It's a conversation. Don't stop at the end of every line as you read, unless there's a sentence there, a period there, and it's the end. Read like you're having a conversation. That's practice. Practice public speaking like it's a performance, because it is. Practice looking people in the eye. Don't do this. You're not connecting with anybody. You have to look people in the eye, so they know you're looking them in the eye. Watch for feedback. Body language. If you see somebody's head not over, you know you're doing the wrong stuff. But practice with people you know and you feel comfortable with. Your spouse, a friend, somebody at work. Say, would you just listen to this? Let me know what it sounds like. Neil, 3 weeks ago, you did your speech for Bay Ward. Hey, that was the thing to do. I did mine for my wife and told her, what do you mean I should change that? No, I didn't say that. I actually thanked her for the changes she suggested and made the changes. Not because she's my wife, but because she made me think about what it says. As you speak, practice slowing down and pause often. Give people time to think, to digest what you said. Practice, 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 and practice again. And don't forget, practice saying thanks too. You have to do that. So there you are. 5 things you need to do. Don't give up trying to be a public speaker. You can't do it. Find a way you can get where you want to be, and when an opportunity comes along, somebody asks you, would you speak at the retirement home on how to set up an iPhone, how to use an iPhone, how to use a browser? Take the opportunity to go speak to people. Say, well, yeah, I could come by and give you a little 10-minute quick review. Don't say, yeah, I can come by and do a 5-hour class in that. No, you'll scare yourself to death because you just committed to speak forever. Be ready. So it doesn't pass you by as you practice the 5 P's. Patience, persistence. You know, they say in persistence, the majority of people who meet with failure do so because they fail to persist in new plans to overcome the failure. Did you get that? Let me read it again because it's from Napoleon Hill. The majority of people meet with failure because of their lack of persistence in creating new plans to take the place of those that failed. We keep failing over and over and we wonder why. We don't make any new plans to overcome what we failed to do. And then we need to work with people. Our prime purpose in public speaking is to help others. And Dalai Lama said, if you can't help people, at least don't hurt them. And then preparation. I found a quote about preparation that I thought was, who is this guy? He was a tall, lanky guy. One time he was president of the United States. His name was Abe Lincoln. He said, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening my axe. That's preparation. He didn't say, give me 6 hours to chop down the tree. He said, give me 6 hours and I'll practice for 4. And then there's always practice and practice and practice and practice. Why do you practice? Because one swing of the bat won't make you a home run hitter. This woman had some words to say about public speaking. We know her mostly as a poet, but she actually talked about public speaking. She said, I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. Hey, you're the public speaker. How do you make them feel? Are you ready for this? Ready for your dream to come true? Or just begin? Hold on to that dream. This lady is Harriet Tubman. She's famous for her work as an abolitionist and on the Underground Railroad. She said it well. What she said was, every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. You can stop dreaming about being a public speaker and become a public speaker. Take the risk of your patience along with some persistence. Remember the people you want to help and prepare a foundation for what to say, and pump all that up with lots of practice, and eventually you'll hit that home run. Don't let your dream just be a dream. Go out there and change the world. Public speaking, you can do it. You can. You can actually do it. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm here all tonight, tomorrow. Thank you very much.
That wraps us up for today.
Yeah.